The state of California was currently in the grip of a raging storm. Heavy raindrops pounded relentlessly against the windows of Michael's small apartment, creating a deafening roar that echoed throughout the entire building. The wind howled, sending loose objects flying in every direction and causing tree branches to sway dangerously. Michael, who was very fond of books and reading, was sleeping soundly. When his sleep came out of the thundering sound of lightning, the splashes of water coming from the broken window also ended the scope of sleep. Well, he woke up and found something tangled in his fingers. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, he found a long hair in his fingers. Thinking that such long hair can belong to a girl, as soon as he looked at his bed, he saw 2 or 4 more hairs. Where did such a girl's long hair come from in the room of Michael, who lives alone? Thinking of this, he woke up upset and threw all the hair out of the window. The tresses got washed away somewhere in the copious drops of rain. Turning around, he thought that he would wash his hands and feet. Then suddenly the fragrance of a girl's presence spread throughout the whole room. It was perfume or a scent, but it was of some girl only. A wet fragrance was spread throughout the whole room. He could not understand how all this was happening. No one came, and no one went, so how did all this happen? He thought that if he washes his face, then maybe the intoxication of sleep will go away and everything will be fine automatically. After washing his hands, he took a deep breath and came out of the bathroom wiping his face. Then the empty chair placed in front of his eyes moved back slightly. Then it shook as if someone was still sitting on it, and was watching the spectacle of Michael's trouble and nervousness. Michael was also a human being, and he was also very nervous. All these things kept him worried. This thing only fueled the fire when he saw that suddenly the pages of the book started fluttering in the air and turning. Perhaps this was the last thing for Michael. He picked up the book and went to the back door, and from where the dustbin was just a short distance away, he threw the book with all the strength of his body, and it fell into the dustbin amidst the raindrops and kept getting wet in the rain. Standing, he kept watching that book getting soaked in water, and then suddenly the doorbell rang. He opened the door and found that the courier was there taking the delivery. When he opened the packet, he found that the books he had ordered on the internet were definitely the same. He had ordered 2 books, but he got 3 books. There must have been some offer. He saw that 2 books were the same what he had ordered, but the third book was the same which he had thrown out just a while ago. Soon he regained consciousness and ran to the balcony and saw that the book he had thrown away a while back was not there. Michael's mind was not working at all. What was all this happening? The rain had stopped by now. He picked up the kerosene bottle from the kitchen and ran to the terrace. He kept a book in a corner on the terrace, poured kerosene on it. The book burst into flames. He heaved a sigh of relief. For some time he saw that book being destroyed by burning, and his heart was filled with peace. Then somewhere he came down. Coming down, he made a cup of tea for himself, and after drinking tea went back up to the terrace. And what the pool saw in front of him doubled Michael's fledgling panic and filled him back in every vein. In the corner where he had lit the book in front of himself, there were not only the ashes of the book, but the smoke had created a shadow on the wall as if someone was standing. Michael could no longer give up and was angrier than nervous, ran downstairs and brought a bucket, opened the tank, filled it with water and poured out the entire bucket to smoke, and took the cloth lying nearby, started rubbing the stains with all his might. At this moment Michael was imprisoned in his stubbornness. He did not wake up until each stain was removed, and when he woke up, the whole wall was shining like before. He felt as if he had come after conquering a fort. Coming downstairs, he washed his hands and feet in the bathroom and came out, and was just wiping his hands and feet, when he saw black footprints on the floor in front of his eyes, as if someone had found them in the ashes of a burnt book, and went from the room keeping the towel. Michael started following the steps. He saw that the footprints had ended at the storeroom. At this time, Michael was like a king on the chessboard, whose luck was leaving him at every step, and he was being defeated at every turn. When he slowly opened the door of that storeroom, his hand went to his mouth. Otherwise, such a scream would have come out that the whole area would remember for years. While going through the door, in front of him, those black-colored footprints were made one after the other at a short distance, as if someone had come on foot from the terrace and entered the storeroom. And not only that, but while walking, they left the floor, climbed the wall, and went on. Michael's eyes kept looking at the footprints from the floor to the wall and ceiling, and when he saw the footprints ending just above his head, whoever had those footprints jumped on him and fell unconscious. When he regained consciousness after a long time, Michael woke up holding his head and fell down staggering. When he again tried to get up with great difficulty, he realized that his weight had increased a lot. He felt as if inside him on top of him. He was not alone. With heavy steps, took one step after another. He went on increasing and went to the door of his room, took a deep breath and looked at his bed, and found that his bed was dirty. There was the book lying in the middle of the bed, half burnt, wet and rotten, with strange wriggling worms in it. Those insects were eating paper too like meat. Michael was not in his senses. His eyes were half open. He kept walking very slowly towards the book, and went near that book and kept looking at the book with greedy eyes like a hungry person, and with one hand looked at the insects on that book. Picked them up from his fist and looking at them with drunken eyes, wailing and hanging out of his fist, started chewing those insects like a delicious pot in his teeth, crossing all limits of disgustingness. While he was chewing those insects, Michael suddenly regained consciousness and realized what he was doing. He ran towards the wash basin. While running, he was vomiting profusely with disgust in his heart and body. When Michael washed his face after vomiting and had to turn back to go back to the room, he must have hardly taken 2 steps. When he was out of breath, looked back and saw a girl in the mirror calling him. In front of him, that girl was calling him close to her, and there was a smile on her face. Such a smile that was telling that something is about to happen, and what was feared happened in a single moment. He was outside the mirror, and the girl was visible to him in the mirror. But now he was outside the mirror, and he could see his reflection in the mirror. But inside he could feel that the girl in the mirror has merged. It all started 2 days ago. He brought a book from the book market, about which the shopkeeper told him that no one has been able to finish reading this book to date. He also looked closely at that thin book and bought it laughingly. At home, when he started reading the book comfortably while reading the book, his eyes got caught, and Michael kept sleeping. When Michael woke up, after doing some work, when he finally sat down to read the book, he realized that he knew the story but had not read the book. How did he know what would happen next in the story? He didn't have the answer right now. Again, reading the story caught his eye, and after that also the same thing happened. As soon as Michael tried to read the second story in the morning, he knew the next story again. He did not keep the book closed this time. Rather, to know its truth, its pages were turned until some pages there were stories, but after that, all the pages were empty. What did it mean? Someone used to tell all the stories in his ears every night in his sleep. There was someone whose stories were written to a large extent, but, in the blank pages before it, maybe, whoever had these stories, she was imprisoned. To know the secret of those blank pages one last time, Michael touched his ear with the blank pages of that book.
Not safe.
Whoever it was, had played with Michael's mind and forced him to listen to these blank pages. While listening, he felt a very sharp pain in his ear, and gradually his whole body became heavy. It happened even if he wanted to. He could not move away from the blank pages of that book until someone got inside him through those blank pages through his ears. From that day onwards, Michael started behaving strangely and slowly progressed toward insanity. In today's date, you can see him in any mall where he narrates stories to people by making them listen to a book. While listening to the stories, you will never reach those blank pages.